How many times have you told yourself, I can't? Maybe you didn't say it out loud, but deep inside you whispered it. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. It's too late for me. And the worst part, you believed it. You believed that small, doubtful voice inside your head more than the dreams that live in your heart. You started living as if you were less than who you were meant to be. But today, I want to challenge that voice, not the world, not the critics, you, because the person you need to prove wrong isn't out there. It's the one looking back at you in the mirror, the one who said you couldn't, the one who gave up halfway, who settled for average when you were built for extraordinary. And I promise you, if you stay with me for just a few minutes, you'll walk out of here not only believing that you can change, knowing that the power to do is always in you. So today, let's silence that voice of doubt and let's awaken the version of you that was always waiting to rise. This is your moment to prove yourself wrong. You know what's funny about life? We all talk about chasing success, chasing dreams, becoming the best version of ourselves, but we rarely talk about the one thing that stands in the way more than anything else. That voice inside your own head, the one that says, you're not good enough. The one that laughs at your goals, that whispers, why even try? We've all heard it. Every single one of us, it's quiet, but it's powerful, it's sneaky, it sounds like reason, like logic, like it's protecting you, but it's not. It's the voice of fear, not truth. Most people never realize how much that voice controls their life. They think the world is holding them back, but it's not the world. It's their own belief about who they are. You want to know where your limits come from, not from your parents, not from society, not even from your failures. They come from the stories you keep repeating to yourself when no one's watching. That inner conversation you have when you're alone. That's shaping your future more than anything else. Think about it. You've probably had moments when you wanted to try something new, start a project, ask for a promotion, speak up, take a risk. And before you even moved, that little voice showed up. Mess it up? You're not ready. You don't have what it takes. And just like that, the fire goes out. The dream fades before it even has a chance to breathe. Not because it was impossible, because you believed the lie that you weren't enough. That's what I mean by recognizing the voice of doubt. It's not about pretending it doesn't exist. It's about not letting it lead your life anymore. The truth is, that voice is not evil. It's just scared. It's the part of you that's trying to keep you safe. It learned somewhere along the line that stepping out, being seen, failing, those things hurt. So it built a cage, wrapped it in logic, called it safety. But the problem is that cage doesn't protect you anymore. It's killing your potential. You see, you can't change what you don't recognize. The first step to real transformation is awareness, catching yourself in the act of self-sabotage. The next time you think, I can't, stop right there. Ask yourself, who said that? Whose voice is that? Because 9 times out of 10, it's not yours. It's a voice from the past. Maybe a teacher who told you you'd never be enough, a parent who compared you to someone else, a moment you failed and decided that failure defined you. But you're not that scared kid anymore. You've lived, you've learned, you've survived things that version of you couldn't even imagine. That's why recognizing the voice matters. Because once you see it for what it is, just noise, just fear, you take back control. You can start replacing that voice with a new one, a stronger one, the one that says, maybe I can, maybe I'm ready, or maybe I was meant for this. And that small shift, that single moment of awareness can change everything. Because if you can control your inner dialogue, you can control your life. Let me tell you something, your brain is always listening. It listens to every word you speak, every thought you repeat, and it believes you. If you keep saying, I'm not confident, your brain says, okay, let's make sure that's true. If you say, I'm unstoppable, it says, got it, let's make that real. The voice of doubt doesn't go away on its own. You have to train your mind to speak differently. You have to feed it new words, new patterns, new beliefs every single day until that becomes your truth. You might be thinking, that sounds too simple. But the truth is, mastery always starts with something simple. Recognizing your self-talk is how you reclaim your power. You can't build confidence on a foundation of self-criticism. You can't rise while constantly telling yourself you're not worthy. You've got to start treating yourself like someone worth fighting for. The next time that doubt shows up, and I want you to smile at it. Not because it's right, because it's predictable. It means you're stepping into something that matters. Doubt never visits the person who's doing nothing. It only knocks when you're on the edge of growth. So when it shows up, don't retreat. Recognize it, thank it for trying to protect you, and move forward anyway. That's how you rewire your life. And listen, I'm not here to tell you to be fearless. I'm here to tell you to move through fear. Courage isn't the absence of doubt. It's the decision to act despite it. The people who succeed, who evolve, who transform, aren't the ones who never hear the voice of doubt. They're the ones who stop letting it decide. Right now, in this very moment, you have 2 choices. You can keep listening to that old story, the one that says you're not enough, not ready, not capable, can start writing a new one. You can start proving that voice wrong. And when you do, something incredible happens. You realize that the voice of doubt never really knew you. It only knew who you used to be. So if you want to begin the journey of becoming who you were meant to be, start here. Recognize the voice that's been holding you back and choose not to obey it anymore. Because the day you stop believing that small voice of fear is the day you finally start hearing the roar of your true potential. That's where the real you begins to rise. You know, so many people go through life thinking they're in competition with everyone else. Their coworkers, their friends, their siblings, even strangers online. They chase approval, applause, validation. The truth is, the only person you ever really need to compete with is you. Not the version of you others see, but the version that says, I can't. The version that wants to stay comfortable. The version that keeps settling for less than what you're capable of. Because the moment you decide to challenge that version of yourself, the one filled with excuses, fears, and self-doubt, that's the moment your life begins to transform. This is where everything changes. You stop trying to prove the world wrong and start trying to prove yourself wrong. You start saying, maybe I've been the one holding myself back. Maybe the limits I thought were real were never real at all. When you reach that point, you shift from living by default to living by design. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop waiting and start becoming. The truth is, you've built walls around yourself over time. We all have. Every time you failed, every time you got hurt, every time someone told you that you weren't enough, you built a little wall to protect yourself. You started believing that the walls were the edge of your world. You stopped testing your limits. You stopped reaching because it felt safer not to try. What if I told you those walls aren't real barriers? They're boundaries you created in your own mind. And what if I told you that the only way to break through them is to challenge them head on? See, when you start to push against your limits, everything inside you resists. That's natural. Your mind will scream, stop! This is uncomfortable. It will give you every reason to quit. You're too tired, too old, too busy, too broken. It's not because your mind wants to hurt you. It's because it's wired to keep you safe. But what it doesn't understand is that comfort and growth cannot exist in the same space. You have to choose. You can't evolve while clinging to what's easy. So when you feel that resistance, that fear, that doubt, that fatigue, don't turn away from it. Lean into it. That's where your transformation hides. You don't discover who you are in the moments that feel easy. You discover it when you're stretched. When you're tested, you feel like you can't go any further, and then you take one more step. That's when the old version of you starts to break and the real one begins to emerge. You want to change your life. Start breaking your patterns. If you usually quit when it gets hard, go one more day. If you usually avoid difficult conversations, have the talk. If you always tell yourself, I'm not the kind of person who can do that, do it anyway. Every time you act against your own limitation, you're not just building skill, you're rewriting your identity, you're sending a message to your brain. Well, don't live by fear anymore. And here's something powerful. You don't need to make huge leaps. You don't have to transform overnight. You just have to start showing your mind that you're stronger than your excuses. Consistency kills limitation. If you can prove to yourself, even in small ways, that you can do what you thought you couldn't, you start to build a new foundation of belief. That's how confidence is born, not from success, but from evidence. Evidence that you're capable, evidence that you're resilient, evidence that you're growing. When you start proving yourself wrong, something amazing happens. The world starts to open up. Things you once thought were impossible suddenly look like challenges instead of threats. You begin to see that your fear wasn't truth. It was just a story you outgrew. You realize that you were never fighting the world, you were fighting your own reflection. And the moment you conquer that reflection, nothing outside of you can stop you anymore. So stop looking for someone else to believe in you. Stop waiting for perfect conditions or external motivation. The most powerful belief you can have is the one you build through your own action. When you push through resistance, you don't just change your results, you change your sense of self. You start to look at yourself differently. You begin to respect yourself more deeply because you know you're no longer living in your own shadow. This is what personal power feels like. That quiet certainty that no matter what life throws your way, you'll handle it. You'll adapt, you'll grow, you'll rise because you've already faced the hardest opponent you'll ever meet, your own doubt, and you've learned how to win. You want to know what freedom feels like? It's not the absence of fear. It's the moment you realize fear doesn't control you anymore. It's the peace that comes from knowing that every time that voice inside says, you can't, you've got the strength to smile and say, watch me. That's the moment everything shifts. That's the moment you stop living in the shadow of your old self and step into the light of who you were always meant to be. Because the day you challenge your own limits is the day you finally meet your true potential. Let me tell you something powerful. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the ingredient that builds it. Somewhere along the way, most of us were taught that failure means you're not good enough, that if you fall, it's a sign to stop trying. But that's not truth. That's conditioning. You weren't born afraid to fail. You learned that fear because the world made you believe mistakes are something to be ashamed of. The reality is failure is not a dead end. It's a direction. It's feedback. It's information about what doesn't work. That information is priceless if you're willing to listen to it instead of hiding from it. Every person who has ever created something great, every innovator, every artist, every leader, they all have one thing in common. They failed more times than most people have even tried. The difference isn't that they were lucky or special. It's that they learned to see failure differently. When they fell, they didn't label it as proof that they weren't capable. They used it as proof that they were in motion, that they were testing the limits of what was possible. They asked better questions. What can I learn from this? What can I adjust? How can I use this to grow? And that mindset, that willingness to extract value from the pain, is what separates the people who evolve from the ones who stay stuck. But let's be honest, it hurts to fail. It hits your pride. It shakes your confidence. It makes you question your worth. And in those moments, it's easy to tell yourself, maybe this isn't for me. But what if it is for you, and that failure was just the tuition you had to pay to learn how to win? If the setback you're facing right now isn't the end of the story, but the part where your story actually gets interesting, because that's what failure really is, the pressure that shapes the diamond. Without it, there's no strength, wisdom, no resilience. When you stop seeing failure as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, is this teaching me? That question alone can transform your life. Because life isn't trying to break you, it's trying to build you. But it can't build you through comfort. It builds you through contrast. It shows you who you don't want to be, so you can decide who you will become. I've seen people spend years running from failure, never taking risks, never speaking up, never putting themselves out there, because they're terrified of being embarrassed, of looking foolish, of being judged. But let me tell you something, you're going to be judged no matter what you do. You might as well be judged for living your truth instead of hiding from it. You might as well collect lessons instead of regrets. Because the people who live the fullest lives aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who learned how to get up faster every time. Here's what's beautiful: every time you fail, you gain something that can't be taken away: experience. Experience builds wisdom. Wisdom builds confidence. Confidence builds momentum, and momentum builds mastery. That's the real process of becoming unstoppable. You can't shortcut it. You can't buy it. You have to live it. There's another level to this. You have to let go of the idea that failure defines you. It doesn't, it refines you. The only way failure becomes final is if you stop growing from it. Most people let one bad experience write their whole story. They fall once and they decide that's who they are. I'm not good at relationships. I'm not smart enough. I'm not a leader. But that's not truth. That's a snapshot of a moment. Don't turn a moment into your identity. That's like judging a book by a single paragraph. You've got more chapters to write. And here's something most people never realize. Failure gives you empathy. It connects you to others in a way success never can. When you've fallen, you've struggled, when you've doubted yourself, you start to understand people more deeply. You become stronger, yes, but also softer, more compassionate, more real. You stop needing to pretend you have it all figured out. That authenticity makes you magnetic. It makes people trust you, follow you, believe in you. That's how leaders are born, not through perfection, but through persistence. So if you're in that place right now where things aren't working, where you feel stuck, lost, or broken, I want you to hear this: nothing is wrong with you. You're just in the middle of learning something powerful. Don't rush through it, numb it, feel it, understand it, then use it. Because someday you'll look back on this moment and realize it was the turning point, the moment that taught you how to rise. Life will test you. It will stretch you. It will strip away everything you think you need until all that's left is the truth of who you really are. But that's not something to fear. That's something to celebrate. Because when failure no longer frightens you, freedom begins. You stop hesitating. You stop holding back. You start playing full out. And that's the moment you realize failure was never the enemy. It was the teacher preparing you for everything you were meant to become. Because every fall you've ever taken was simply life's way of lifting you higher. Everyone wants to feel confident. We talk about it like it's magic, as if one day we'll wake up and just feel ready. But confidence isn't something you wait for. It's not a gift and it's not a mood. Confidence is a byproduct of consistency. It's what happens when you keep showing up day after day, especially when you don't feel like it. It's built, not given. It's earned through repetition, through doing the uncomfortable things again and again until they stop controlling you. See, people think they need confidence to start, to take the first step, to chase the dream, to build the body, to change their life. But the truth is, confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after you don't feel certain and then act. You act, and then you become certain. You build belief by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you follow through on something you said you'd do, even something small, your brain learns that you can trust yourself. And that trust, that's what confidence really is. Think about it like this: every single day, you have two voices fighting for control. One says, stay comfortable. You've done enough. The other says, keep going. You were made for more. The first one will always be louder because it's easy, it's safe. But the second one, that quiet whisper of discipline, that's the voice that leads to greatness. If you listen to it long enough, it becomes stronger. Eventually, that whisper becomes your new normal. But here's the truth most people avoid: consistency isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. It's waking up early when you don't want to. It's putting in effort when no one's clapping. It's saying no to distractions again and again, while others take the easy path. It's the grind that happens in silence. The hours, the effort, the discipline, no one ever sees. Confidence, that's where confidence is forged. That's where transformation happens. And listen, this isn't about perfection. You don't have to be perfect to be consistent. You just have to be committed. There's difference. Perfection says, if I mess up, failed. Commitment says, if I mess up, I start again. That mindset is everything, because life will test your discipline. It will throw distractions, setbacks, temptations, and pain your way. The question isn't whether you'll fall, you will. The real question is whether you'll rise back up the next morning and keep going. That's where the power lies, in getting up. Every time you get up, you strengthen your identity. You start to realize, I'm the kind of person who follows through. I'm the kind of person who doesn't give up. And that identity starts to shape your reality, because your life is always moving toward the standards you set for yourself. You don't get what you want, you get what you consistently practice. So if you want to change your life, start small. Don't wait for motivation. Motivation is a spark, consistency is the fire. You build the fire by doing the small things well. Maybe it's 10 minutes of reading. Maybe it's one workout. Maybe it's choosing water over soda. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is that you show up. Because once you do, your mind starts to shift. You stop thinking like someone who hopes to change, and you start thinking like someone who is changing. And the truth is that shift is everything. The moment you prove to yourself that you can stay consistent in one area, starts bleeding into every other part of your life. You start walking differently. You speak differently. You make decisions differently. You start to carry yourself like someone who knows they can rely on themselves. That's confidence, not arrogance, not ego, but deep, unshakable trust. Here's something I've seen over and over. Most people quit not because they're incapable, but because they're impatient. They plant the seed and dig it up too soon to check if it's growing. Real growth takes time. It takes patience, repetition, and faith. You can't rush it. You can't microwave transformation. You have to nurture it daily, even when there's no visible result yet. Because behind the scenes, something is changing. You just can't see it yet. And one day it hits you. You realize that the version of you who used to procrastinate, who used to break promises, who used to doubt themselves, that version doesn't run your life anymore. You replaced chaos with consistency. You've turned discipline into a habit and habit into power. That's when you understand this isn't about talent or luck or timing. It's about showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. So if you're in that space right now where you're tired, where progress feels slow, where no one notices your effort, keep going. Because this is the part where most people give up, and it's also the part where champions are made. This is the space between who you are and who you're becoming. It's uncomfortable, it's uncertain, but it's sacred. Every time you show up for yourself, you're casting a vote for the person you want to be. And the more votes you cast, more that version of you becomes real. That's how you shift from wishing for change to embodying it. That's how you stop needing motivation and start becoming unstoppable. Because confidence doesn't come from feeling ready. It comes from proving and over again that you'll show up no matter what. Close your eyes for a second and imagine the version of you that you've always wanted to become. Not the one you pretend to be for other people. The real one. The version that wakes up with purpose, who follows through on promises, who doesn't hesitate when opportunities appear. The one who's healthy, confident, calm, powerful, the one who walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word because their energy speaks louder than anything else. You've seen glimpses of that person before, maybe in moments when you pushed past fear, maybe in the times you stood up for yourself or refused to quit or surprised yourself with your own strength. That version of you isn't imaginary. It's who you really are beneath the noise of fear, doubt, and habit. The problem is, most people never meet that version of themselves because they spend their lives reacting to their circumstances instead of creating their direction. They let life push them instead of deciding where they want to go. If you want to become who you were meant to be, you have to see it first. You can't become what you can't imagine. Visualization isn't wishful thinking. It's programming. It's your brain rehearsing success before it happens. You hold that vision of your higher self clearly enough, your actions start aligning with it. You begin to make decisions that your future self would make, not the ones your past self is comfortable with. This is where transformation begins. You stop saying someday and start saying now. You stop waiting for confidence to show up and start acting like the person who already has it. Because here's the truth: identity is not found, it's built. You build it every single day through what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you repeat. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're voting for the future you. Every time you push through fear instead of backing down, you're sending a message to your mind. This is who we are now. You see, people keep asking for change, but they don't realize that change doesn't come from what you want. It comes from what you embody. You can't just say, I want to be confident, and then keep living by the patterns that made you doubt yourself. You have to start behaving like the confident version of you before you feel it. You have to start showing up like the successful version of you before you see results. Because life responds to energy, not intentions. You attract what you are, not what you wish for. The question is, what does the best version of you look like? How do they speak? How do they move? How do they treat people? How do they treat themselves? What time do they wake up? What do they do when things get hard? That's who you need to start being right now, not when things are perfect, when you have more time, not when the world gives you permission, right now. Because every time you act like that version of you, you're closing the gap between who you've been and who you're becoming. And I know it's uncomfortable at first. You're rewiring habits, rewriting beliefs, and stepping into a space that feels unfamiliar. That's normal. Growth always feels awkward because you're moving beyond your old identity. But discomfort is proof that you're expanding. You're shedding the version of yourself that was built from fear, and you're stepping into one built from vision. That's how evolution feels. Shaky, uncertain, but alive. Most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they stop believing in their future self. They get caught in the loop of the present, the frustration, the fear, the slow progress, and they forget that the person they're becoming is watching them. Imagine that future version of you looking back right now. Would they be proud of how you're showing up today? Would they thank you for not giving up, for doing the hard things, for staying the course, even when no one believed in you? Because they exist. That version of you is real, but they're waiting for you to earn them. Here's the truth. Your vision of the future is a preview of your potential. If you can see it, it means it's possible. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't made of distance. It's made of decisions. Every thought, every choice, every action either builds a bridge toward that future or a wall that blocks it. The good news, you control both. You don't have to figure everything out today. You just have to start showing up like that person would. If your future self is disciplined, be disciplined now. If they're confident, start carrying yourself with that confidence now. If they're fearless, start taking small, courageous actions now. The world won't hand you your identity. You have to live it into existence. And yes, there will be days when it feels like you're going backward. There will be days when the old habits come calling. You doubt yourself again when it feels easier to fall back into who you were. But remember this, growth is messy before it's beautiful. It's chaotic before it's clear. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be intentional, because one day you're going to look back and realize that everything you were searching for was never outside of you. It was always inside, waiting for you to believe in it, waiting for you to stop running from your own greatness. Because the moment you start living like the person you're meant to become, you stop chasing your potential and you start becoming it. At some point, you have to stop talking about change and start being the change. You've done the work, you've faced the doubt, challenged your limits, learned from failure, built consistency, and envisioned the person you were meant to be. But now, this is the moment where all of that becomes real, because transformation isn't proven through words or plans or motivation. It's proven through action. It's proven through the way you show up, the way you live, the way you move through the world when no one's watching. There comes a day when you realize that the best way to silence your old excuses isn't to argue with them. It's to outperform them. You stop needing to convince yourself that you're strong because your results start speaking for you. You stop searching for signs that you're on the right path because your progress becomes the proof. That's what it means to live as the proof, to embody the strength, the discipline, and the courage that once felt out of reach. It's not about perfection. It's not about pretending to have it all figured out. It's about alignment, living in a way where your actions finally match your words, where your habits match your goals. Who you are matches who you say you want to become. Because when your actions are out of alignment with your vision, you feel it. You feel that tension, that pull between your potential and your patterns. And that's the body's way of saying you were made for more. When you start living as the proof, something incredible happens. You stop seeking validation from the outside world. You no longer need people to notice your growth because you feel it. You wake up with clarity. You move with intention. You look at the person in the mirror, and for the first time, you're proud. Not because everything's perfect, but because you're finally walking your talk. You've earned your peace. You've earned your pride. Let me be honest with you. This stage isn't the easiest one. In fact, it's where most people turn back, because once you start changing, the world around you doesn't always know how to handle it. People get uncomfortable when you grow. They like the version of you that played small, the one that didn't make them question their own limits. So when you start breaking your patterns, setting boundaries, and raising your standards, some people will drift away. Don't take that as rejection. Take it as confirmation that you're evolving. You're not losing people. You're shedding the environments that match your old identity. You can't become the new you and still keep the same conversations, the same habits, the same energy that belonged to the old you. Living as the proof means being willing to outgrow what doesn't align with your future, even when it's uncomfortable. It means doing what's right, not what's easy. It means making choices that your old self would avoid and your future self will thank you for. That's integrity. That's power. And when you reach this place, something shifts deep inside you. You stop needing to say, changing. People start feeling it. They see it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, in the way you respond to life. You start inspiring others without even trying, because true leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about showing them what's possible. When you live as the proof, your life becomes the example. You become living evidence that it's possible to rise above fear, to rebuild from failure, to create purpose from pain. And this is where the journey comes full circle. The person who once doubted themselves becomes the person who helps others believe in themselves. The one who once asked, "Can I do this?" becomes the one who shows others, "You can too." That's the beauty of it. You don't just transform for yourself. You become the light for someone else still lost in the dark. You become the reason someone else decides not to give up. But remember this, being the proof isn't about being invincible. It's about being real. It's about showing that strength and vulnerability can coexist, that you can have moments of doubt and still move forward, that you can fall and still rise higher than before, because the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more authentic ones. People who live with heart, with courage, with truth. You've already proven to yourself that you can survive. Now it's time to prove that you can thrive, to live each day like you were sent here for something bigger, because you were. You're not here just to exist, to fit in, or to settle. You're here to make a dent, to leave a mark, to show the world what happens when someone refuses to stay ordinary. So live it, walk it, be it. Let your actions tell your story louder than your words ever could. Let your life be the message that says, this is what's possible when you stop doubting, stop waiting, and start becoming. Because the moment you start living as the proof, you don't just change your life. You become the reason others believe they can change theirs too.